All right, people, we are going to discuss this project and remind me at the end to give you the due date because I always forget to put that on there. All right, so this is the opportunity for you to look at some different things that we don't get an opportunity to look at when we're studying ancient Greece. So this is called a choice board, which hopefully you understand implies that you get some sense of choice in the assignments that you pick. You have to do 3. I do make you do one from the top row, which is a writing assignment. You have to do one of those. You can only do one of those. So those of you that love to write, that hate to do creative things, you can't do all 3 of the writing things. You can only do one. So the first one is a very simple compare contrast of Athens and Sparta. Your essay must be written in essay format with an introduction and a conclusion. And because this is a compare and contrast, that means 2 paragraphs, a paragraph to compare and a paragraph to contrast. So instead of typically we talk about a 5-body essay, this will be 4 because we're just doing compare and contrast. So you have an introduction, a paragraph to compare, a paragraph to contrast, and then a conclusion. A good, solid academic paragraph is 6 to 8 good sentences. However, when you're doing a compare and contrast, those paragraphs probably need to be just a little bit bigger than normal. So that's the first writing assignment that you could choose. The second one is a creative writing assignment. So the first one is a fact base. This is all fact. You're going to get information from both the notes, some from our textbook. You might have to look up some other things, but that's a facts, evidence-based essay. The second one is for creative writing. Those of you that enjoy creative writing, you are going to create journal entries. Choose to either be an Athenian or a Spartan. And I don't say that you have to be a man or a woman. You can choose either one of those that you would like to be. They each have different roles. So if you're a Spartan woman during the Peloponnesian War, you have a lot of responsibilities as opposed to an Athenian woman. An Athenian woman, she can't leave her house without an escort or a guardian. A Spartan woman takes over and runs things. So you can choose that, or obviously you can choose to be a warrior in the Peloponnesian War. You have to write at least 6 lengthy journal entries reflecting your experiences. So here's what happens quite often when people choose this one because they feel like it's easy. The problem will occur for you in writing this one is that the stuff that you write could be about anything. War is hard. I'm so tired. I'm hungry. I miss my family. That could be about the Peloponnesian War. That could be about World War II. That could be about the war in Afghanistan. Every soldier is tired and hungry and misses their family. So that cannot be what you write. Obviously, you can include that, but if you read that, your entry should reflect what life was like during the time period and contain important historical information. There should be something in that instantly when I read it, I know that this is about the Peloponnesian War, okay? Can we close up our laptops while I'm doing this? Thanks. And it has to have a point of view, right? If you're Spartan, I should know just from reading it that you're Spartan. I shouldn't have to have some kind of indication that you're a Spartan warrior, okay? Number 3 is more of a persuasion paper. This is to write a defense or the prosecution, or write for the defense or the prosecution of Socrates. So Socrates is a really important philosopher that we will study, and he is convicted of inciting the youth to riot. What he does is he teaches young people to do something quite revolutionary, and that would be to think for themselves and to critically think about the way governments are operating, and he encourages the youth to think for themselves. And for that, he gets convicted and sentenced to death. And then in which he drinks hemlock and dies. So you can either prosecute Socrates or defend Socrates. This needs to be written like you're talking to a jury and a judge. So that part should be included. So again, either choose to defend or prosecute, write a brief, and that's just what a lawyer calls it, but it's an essay of your arguments to present to the court. Your brief must thoroughly address all the charges and be written in the language to present to the court and the jury. So that's what I would be looking for, like members of the jury. I'm here to defend Socrates. You need to make sure you know all the things that he's being charged with and what the outcome. All right, so you have to choose one of those, 1, 2, or 3. One is not easier or harder than the other. I think you need to think about what type of writing style is best fit for you. I'm not a creative writer. I would never want to do journal entries. Could not do that. I don't think like that. I'm not a creative writer. I would end up copying some book that I read would be my problem. So my choices would be 1 or 2, or I'm sorry, 1 or 3. You can, for those of you that like handwriting things, it's easier for you to your thoughts to write things down. You can write this on paper. If you do write it on paper, please skip lines and don't write on the back. And obviously, if I will have a turn in on Canvas for this by tomorrow. If you want to type the same thing, please double space so that it's easy for me to read. Okay. Also, you should know by now, making fonts big and all that stuff and filling up the paper with big fonts doesn't really do much. I always do a word count to like how many words you have. Not that that's the big basis, but you should just know filling up the pages with big font isn't going to help you in the grade. So that's the first 3. The next 6, you can pick any 2. So I'm going to walk through each of these so that you understand what you're doing and what you're required to do for any of these. Some of them will allow you to do things on paper. Some of them will allow you to do things using digital apps. Some of them are more creative than the other. So create a movie about an important event. So this is your movie. In any way that you want to do this movie, you have to get me to approve the event so that it is worthy of a movie. So we have lots of things it could be. Obviously, the Peloponnesian War is going to be an important event. Alexander the Great is in this chapter. We have the death of Socrates, which is an important event. So lots of events that you can use if this movie is something you like to do. It must be historically accurate, creative, and completely explain the event. We have the Battle of Thermopylae, the Big 300. So there's lots of things in this chapter to make a movie about. For those of you that enjoy, again, creativity, I have Create a Graphic Novel. Create it in any way you want. You can do it with a digital application. You can draw it yourself. You can write it out. However you want to do that. And this is the only stipulation is that this is a graphic novel about Alexander the Great. So graphic novel should address aspects of Alexander's life, the rise at his height and the death of Alexander should be historically accurate. This is not an art project. So if this is something that you still would really like to do, to think about creating a graphic novel, you won't be judged on your artwork. Your picture should make sense in the sense that it is a graphic novel. But obviously the important part of that is the story itself. Okay? For those of you that are not as creative, like, I don't think I could do any of those. Number 7 is a straight presentation of 4 scientific advances made by the ancient Greeks, and you can put that together in any way that you want. So you're going to choose 4 of these advances. You must explain in detail the advancement and the significance in your presentation. That presentation can be anything that you want. It can be a PowerPoint, it can be a poster, it can be put together in some kind of report binder, however you want to do that. So you're going to pick 4 very different scientific advances and make that explanation. The next one is about Greek art and architecture. It is, again, one of the longest lasting legacies of Greece is their artwork and their architecture. And that's very similar to number 7. 10 works of art and or 10 forms of architecture, or half and half. At the end of the day, you have to have 10 things. So if you do 10 pieces of artwork, if you do 10 architecture, half and half, 6 art, 4 architecture, I don't care how you split up the pictures, you just need 10 things. In that, you must find the 4 characteristics of Greek art, of which one of them is balance. There's 4 things. Balance is one of them. Create a presentation using any presentation tool of your choice, but your presentation must include a picture of the art and information of what it is. Analyze it for those characteristics, those 4 characteristics. Number 9 is my personal favorite because I'm not creative. I always want to be creative, but here's my opportunity to be creative with other people's creativity, is to create a soundtrack. So again, you're going to choose an event or a person with prior approval. So for instance, choosing Alexander the Great, you're going to create a soundtrack, and I say YouTube, Spotify, or Screencastify, however you want to do it, of 5 songs. You're not writing the songs, you're getting 5 already created songs and making a playlist for Alexander the Great, which I think is pretty awesome. So you would give me the reason that you chose that song and some kind of cover art to go with that soundtrack. Okay, does that make sense? And then the last one is Greek mythology with a superhero twist. So if you're doing this number 10, what many people, and why they don't get full points, is they choose 1 female or 1 male. It doesn't say or, it says choose 1 female and 1 male. So you're creating 2 superheroes, 1 male, 1 female, to research and recreate the Greek god into a modern day superhero. So you're going to take a Greek god and give it some superhero's superpower in modern time, like Spidey's webs or any of those things. You must incorporate the traits and aspects of the Greek gods you choose and then create a presentation method. And again, I don't care how you give this to me. If you make it on a poster, if you put it in a folder, if you make a Google slideshow, if you make a movie, I don't care how you put it together, but you have to have 3 things. You have to have a write-up describing the superhero. You have to have a backstory, because every superhero has a backstory. And then you need a new image. Again, this is not an art project, so the image doesn't necessarily have to be something that you draw. Those of you that are good with photoshopping, you can superimpose things. It does need to look clear enough that I can see. But what I'm looking at is the write-up on the superhero that incorporates both the Greek god and the new superhero, and then the backstory of how that all came into play. All right, does that all make sense? And now let me look at a due date here. I think we're going to go with November 3rd. Now, here's what your little brain is going to say to yourself right now. November 3rd? That's like next month. It's only 2 weeks. So please do not wait. That gives you 2 weekends. I always like to give you 2 weekends to work on this project. The paper thing shouldn't take anything from your parents, right? You should be able to do the paper thing by yourself. If you're doing any of the other things that require supplies, please make sure you give your parents enough notification to get those, or ask me. If none of you have seen any of my cabinets open, I got lots of stuff. So if you need supplies, let me know. I got a whole drawer of construction paper. So I've got stuff if you need it, but don't wait. November 3rd is a Tuesday. I never like to have projects due on Monday because you always forget it at your house, conveniently. So, but that gives you 2 full weekends, 2 of those Wednesdays that you should be using to figure this out. The only thing that you have to check in with me is if you're doing the movie, I need to know what your event is. If you're doing the soundtrack, that's the only thing I need you to tell me anything about. You don't need to tell me which ones you're going to do. I don't need to know in advance because you might change your mind. You might get halfway down the rabbit hole of thinking you want to do the iMovie and it's like, nope, that's really not any fun for me. I don't want to do that. Please know that if you're doing I say iMovie, excuse me, if you use Screencastify, if you didn't find that there is awesome editing features with Screencastify, you just go and open your movie and you can go and add all kinds of things. You can edit it. You can add, I think you can add filters. You can add, I think you can add audio, but you have to open it once that it's saved in your Google Drive. Okay? Are there any questions right now? What questions do you have for me about this assignment? First thing I'll tell you is you can turn it in before November 3rd. You do not, those of you that like to get stuff check marked and off my plate and I'm done and I don't have to think about it anymore, I will open a Canvas turn in for this tomorrow. So those of you that like to get things done and check marked and turned in, you may do so. I will proofread any of your writings if you would like, and you give me time to do that. For those of you that are a little anxious about writing, it's not your strong suit. I will proofread anything that you would like for me to do with that writing. Anything else? Anything else that we can think of that you can ask questions about? Does everybody understand? So make sure you write the due date. You will need to turn this thing in with your project. So I should hopefully know what your project is. Sometimes I've had questions. I wasn't really sure what you were doing. So that's why I have you circle the task. So you're going to circle either 1, 2, or 3, and then write the other 2 down. Also, sometimes you forget to put names on them, and I can match up at the end if I've got this slip what you should have done. Okay? Questions? This is one of my favorite things. I love seeing all of your projects. We won't be able to do it this year, I don't think. I usually have a museum where I put everything out and invite your parents to come look. I'm not sure that we'll be able to do that this year. I'll have to ask Dr. Jenkins about having people in the building, but I'm pretty sure that will be no. So we'll try to figure out another way for your parents to see all your awesome work. All right? Questions? All right, your assignment for today is the discus thrower, Myron. If you have not already done it, I think I have already about 6 or 7 people that have already turned it in. That is what you should be working on for the rest of the class period. Okay?
Is that what we have tomorrow to do too, or do we have different assignment?
Excuse me?
Is that assignment due tomorrow?
I think it's due today.
Okay, so we have
You will have something new tomorrow. Yes.